Hi guys, welcome to my first ever YouTube video. In this video I will be attempting to teach you guys how to create your first C++ program. And now before I actually try to teach you how to create your first program, there's a few things that I want to discuss in regards to why I'm creating this video. There are many different videos explaining the basics of C++ on YouTube and elsewhere on the internet, but really I wanted to create my own version of it because there's a couple of things that I often see in many videos which they don't teach, or they teach you how to create a program and it's all good, right? But there are certain things they do which aren't really good practices, right? And they also just tell you how they just tell you how to do it without explaining why you're doing it. And I think this is one of the biggest issues I have, especially now when I'm trying to learn as well myself, is over the internet people just tell you to do something without any explanation whatsoever as to why you're doing it and why you're doing it that way rather than doing it some other way. So I really wanted to there's two things I really want to discuss, which I'll get to in the video. So at this point I assume that you guys already know how to install Visual Studio and set it up so you can actually start programming. If you don't, there are various tutorials out there that actually do explain to you how to do it, and it's not really that hard, to be honest. So you can guys go, if you don't know how to do that, you guys can go ahead and take a look at those videos. But really I wanted to get straight into this and just tell you how to do it. So if you have a main CPP file, a C++ file, the first thing you want to do is first include another file. And you do this by doing the hashtag include, and then you do this iostream, right? So what exactly are we doing here? So this line, this file consists of certain functionality which allow us to print text strings more specifically onto the console, right? So this class here consists of that functionality which we want to use, right? So if in order to use that functionality, we have to include the file or import it, right? After we've imported it, we have to tell the system when it runs our program where to start running, right? And this is also called an entry point. And this is written simply by doing this. Okay. So this is called an entry point, which when the system runs an application, it will look through a program and look for the main, this main function, this main keyword here. It's nothing more than that, to be honest. It's just a way of allowing your program to start, or giving your program some place to start executing code, and this is exactly it. Now, so in order to print anything onto this console, you have to start by doing this: std : cout, the arrow operator, and then a string, right? This could be any string you want. I'm just going to say hello, right? I'm just going to write hello. Now, and you basically end it by writing that, another arrow operator. These are called operators, and end line. Now, if we were to, this is pretty much the program right here. So if we were to run the program, you can either click on this button here or press the F5 button. What you'll notice is that it runs and then closes, right? Nothing happened. So you might assume that there's something wrong with your program, which in fact there isn't actually anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with your program. But what happens is what you have to understand is that computers will only do whatever you tell them to do, right? We've told it, look, start the program, print it, and end the program, right? So when it runs, that is all it will ever do. It will print and exit. But we have to find a way of actually printing, but allowing us to view what has been printed onto the screen. And this can be done by asking for input, right? And I'll just demonstrate to you what I mean by this, right? This line here, std : cin.get, right? This simply just waits for a user to input any key. But during this time, we actually view the string, and it's just a little way of, a quick way of pausing the program, so to speak, so we can, like I said, so we can see what we're expecting, this hello world, this hello string. So if we run our program now, you'll notice that there we go. We have our program, our first program, and it works. It's everything what we expect it to be. Now, I could just end the video right here, and everyone will be happy. But like I said, there's a few things that I wanted to talk about, more specifically, using namespace std and the end line. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this program. So often in other tutorials, you'll see people do something like this, right? They might do something like this, and they'll do something like this, right? Now, I find it quite interesting that they decide to do this in a tutorial, because in my personal opinion, a tutorial is supposed to be a way of explaining something to someone and teaching them how to do it, right? And not just teaching them how to do it, especially with programming, but teaching them the correct way to do it and the most efficient way of doing it. When you write something like this, essentially what you're doing is you're importing, right? You are importing a lot of different classes and other variables and so many different things behind the scenes which is found within the library, which you just don't need. And this could lead to a big issue, such as conflicting types, right? Conflicting classes, conflicting variables. And if you want, I can actually demonstrate this to you. Let me just move this code down a bit. But let's just say we create our own class, right? A way of actually, let's just do a class, right? Let's do a string class, simple string class, right? And we say we want to use this string class. We can string a, right? But we get an error, and what you'll see is this error says string is ambiguous. Now, what this means is that the word string, the class string, is conflicting with something, right? The compiler is unable to figure out what string you're referring to, because the standard library, C++, has its own string class, but also you've defined your very own string class. So how is C++ meant to know what string to use? And that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to using something like this. And you're importing so many different things, like I said, so doing this, I don't think is good practice, right? You don't often see this in, actual code that people make to, make programs. You don't actually see this that often, and, there are good reasons for that. So that's one thing I really wanted to say. When you're writing a program, don't ever, I can't really say don't ever do this, but I don't see a reason to do this, right? There's no valid reason, in my opinion, to do something like this. So that is why I recommend always explicitly writing this std : so you're directly referring to this cout class, right? But the second thing that I wanted to talk about is this end line, right? So when we print something onto the console, we actually take a look actually. So as you can see, we print the word hello, but what you'll notice is that the cursor is actually on the next line, right? Which is typical of what you would like to see, right? You print something, go to the next line. That's fine. That's no problem. But it's not. This end line doesn't actually do what most people think it does, which is, you look at this word and it said ENDL. Most people would assume it end line, which it actually does. But I wanted to actually look into this a bit more. And if you hold Control and click on this word, it jumps to the definition, which essentially shows you what it's doing. And what you'll see here is that the word hello, this character here, /n, gets added, or in other words, put onto the string. Right? It gets concatenated, gets added onto it. So after it concatenates that that /n, it also does some sort of flush. So what's exactly happening here? Well, let me talk about what /n means, right? /n is known as a new line character, and whenever let's say you're on Word, you're writing a document and you hit the enter key, that inserts a /n, a new line character, which tells any software program to insert a new line. Okay, without it will just print a word and just nothing. It won't. There's no new line going to it. When you print the word hello into the cout class, which eventually prints it out onto the console, you're putting it into a buffer. And so when you print it out or do end line, it also, at the end of it, it flushes that buffer, kind of gets rid of it. It kind of gets rid of the memory it holds. Sorry, the space it takes up in memory. It gets rid of that. And this flush is often 90% of the time is not something you need to do. It's just an extra operation, which is used by other standard library classes, which is just out of the scope of this video. So really what we want to do is we want to add a new line character, but we don't want to flush, right? We want to optimize our program. Even in such a trivial program such as this, printing text. So one way you could do this, well, actually the way you would normally do this, is you would actually get rid of this. But what you would do is you would do a /n, right? You would manually insert a new line character in here, right? So we get the benefits of getting a new line character, but we don't do an extra operation, making the code less efficient. So if we go ahead and run this program, it behaves exactly the same as it did before, without the buffer being flushed behind the scenes, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's pretty much it, really. That's just the two things I really wanted to add on top of that. What a lot of people don't actually realize when they're learning. Just two little things there that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so if you have any questions, make sure to leave the comments down below. Let me know how I did on my first video. I just really wanted to ramble on a bit, talk about a little bit how things work. But thank you very much, and I'll see you in my next video.